Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Elise Diamantini. I'm the Content Marketing Manager for Informa Markets, which produces the leading fashion trade events like Magic, Project, Coterie, New York Women's, Become America's, and Children's Club. We hope everyone is doing well and staying safe during this challenging time. Today's webinar is the second in our series focusing on digital strategies for brands and retailers. We'll get into that shortly, but first, a few housekeeping items. Number one, please note you will be placed on mute for the duration of the call. All questions will be addressed via the Q&A log or at the end of the presentation. We will do our best to get to as many of the audience questions as possible, but if we aren't able to cover them all here, we will address as many as we can via a blog post on our content site, Fashion Frameworks post-webinar. Number two, if you experience any system issues, click on the help option on your registration reminder email. And number three, this presentation will be emailed to you in the next few days and will also be available on our content site, fashionframeworks.com. We'd also like to mention that our leading trade events, Magic, Coterie, Project, Children's Club, New York Women's, and Become America's, are proud to provide this webinar free of charge to our community members, and we would like to thank all participants for their time. We applaud the CFDA for their initiative, A Common Thread, and invite anyone interested to make a small donation. We have included the ways you can donate on this slide, and we'll have all that information on our website as well. Here's a brief video with more information on A Common Thread. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Brian Trenzo, Head of Sales for Men's Fashion. Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Elise. We're so very fortunate today to be in the presence of some really amazing minds, and I'm sure that we'll all learn a thing or two or 20 by the time that we're done here. So with that, I would like to introduce our panel of experts to you. First, we have Karin Dillie, Director of Vendor Relations at the RealReal, the leader in authenticated luxury consignment. Next, we have Jordan Knapp, Head of Market Development at Shopify Plus, the largest and perhaps most well-known name in enterprise solutions for e-commerce retailers. Then we have Matthew Nastos, CEO and founder of Maison Market, which is a next-generation digital marketing agency, which specializes in social media advertising, lead generation, email marketing, and search engine marketing, among other things. And then we have Loree Lash-Valencia, VP of North American Sales at JOOR, a trailblazing B2B wholesale order writing platform for fashion, beauty, and home, helping brands and retailers buy and sell digitally to the tune of over $1 billion every month. So a really great cast that we have today. So starting generally with the cast, would you please just give an overview of both your role within your company, but also your company's role in the world at large currently at a time like this, post-COVID or really during COVID?
Did you want me to start?
Sure, jump on in.
All right, hi. My name is Karin Dillie. I'm the Director of Vendor Relations at The RealReal. The RealReal is the world's largest marketplace for authenticated, consigned luxury goods. That includes women's and men's ready-to-wear accessories, kids, fine jewelry and watches, and art and home. We basically provide like a safe and reliable platform for consumers to buy and sell their luxury items for our buyers, it's a great place. It's trusted. It's a resale site where they can get luxury items. We also we're both online, and we do have stores in New York, LA, and we just opened up our San Francisco store about 3 weeks before COVID, but it will be back up. And then for our consigners, we make it really easy. We really wanted to have a luxury experience, and using a digital platform to do that, to really reach a mass consumer base. So for consigners, either someone can come to your house, you can ship in, or you can come to one of our luxury consignment offices. Within the RealReal, I am the director of B2B, so vendor relations and trust and estates. So I oversee kind of the big complex consignments, and people choose to use us and work with this channel really because we can talk about this a little later, kind of why, but it's discreet, it's easy, and it's sustainable. So we know a lot has changed with COVID, and a lot of brands and retailers are kind of trying to navigate that. So there's been a strong appetite for our B2B program, and we can dig in kind of what that looks like in these changing times.
Thank you, Karin. Jordan, what about you?
Excellent. Yeah, this is Jordan Knapp. I lead the market development team for Shopify Plus. I've been in the industry probably just about my whole career. So, there's, I think I've seen, quite the evolution within retail e-commerce. At one point in time, everything cost $1 million to manage and maintain, build. And then, I think with the really the advent of SaaS-based e-commerce platform, it's really brought down a lot of barriers to entry for basically all retailers. So, today Shopify's we're the largest e-commerce platform in the world, true software as a service, extreme consumability, fast time to market, about 1 million merchants on Shopify today. And Shopify Plus really caters to our largest merchants that are on the platform. So generally folks doing, about maybe 1 million GMV online. But the thing that's been really fascinating to me is over the past few weeks is just watching all of these new to life businesses and industries coming to e-commerce for the first time. So it's been massive disruption in supply chain, massive disruption in retail and distribution networks. But that's it's unfortunate times, but it's really forced retailers and brands to look for in many cases for the first time to building really direct relationships with their customer base. So part of my role now has been looking at, how do we explore the new industries and make sure that we're providing the right sets of capabilities to our merchants during these unique times.
Thank you very much. And Matt, tell us a little bit about Maison Market.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Brian, for the intro. Thank you, Informa, for inviting me to speak today. So a little bit of background on myself as well as Maison Market, my company. So I am the CEO of Maison Market, as well as one of the co-founders. I started our marketing agency a little bit over 6 years ago with my younger brother, Lexi. A little bit of background on Lexi and myself. Both Lexi and I went to Cornell, studied textile and apparel management. Lexi worked at Theory in their leadership and training program, and then was on the men's buying team at Scoop. So he has both kind of brand as well as multi-brand and retail experience. And I, back in 2012, 2013, found myself working at an e-com startup based in Soho in downtown New York, and was responsible essentially for overseeing all of kind of the customer acquisition strategies and understanding the different levers that we could pull on essentially to drive performance and drive results. And through that role, I was fortunate enough to become friends with a number of designers that were using that platform, a number of the brands that were using it to connect with their customers, and realized that there was kind of this unaddressed pain point where a lot of brands and designers and businesses were looking to scale and grow their e-com businesses, but didn't really have a partner, a trusted partner, or the expertise to do it themselves in-house. So we essentially started Maison Market within the realm of digital marketing to be focused exclusively on e-commerce customer acquisition strategies. So we've scaled the business over the past 6 or so years, currently have over 60 clients on our roster that range from multi-brand retailers, men and women's ready-to-wear, typically in the kind of contemporary, advanced contemporary, up to luxury and designer spot, as well as jewelry, accessories, footwear. We also work with some non-fashion clients, work with several music festivals, So we have an eclectic mix of clients on our roster, but they all work with Maison Market because they're interested in figuring out how to scale and grow their digital and direct-to-consumer businesses in an efficient manner, in an efficient way. So needless to say, this entire COVID and coronavirus situation has kind of put us front and center, as we are very much one of the, if not the only, channels remaining open for business. So it's been very much a moving target. This is by far the busiest that we've ever been in terms of managing existing clients, taking on new clients and new businesses that are trying to adapt to an increasingly challenging marketplace. But fortunately, we have some really terrific insights in terms of what's performing well, what's working, everything from messaging to channels and strategies. So yeah, my goal today is to just share as much as humanly possible so that people can, take away some useful bits of information.
Thank you very much, Matt. And I'm looking forward personally to hearing about that customer acquisition strategy that you were talking about. But first, we'll round out the introductions with Loree. So Loree, a little bit about yourself, JOOR, and what you guys are doing in this COVID environment.
Yes. So I am Loree Lash-Valencia, and I am definitely a fashion native. I started my career as a designer, worked on the brand side, worked developing product. I don't think there's something that I haven't done in the industry in merchandising, and then segued into digital around 2010 and was on the other side of the fence with the buying side and direct-to-consumer, marketplace platforms. We really love sitting where fashion meets technology and really enjoy bringing cutting-edge technology to our industry. And I lead the sales team at JOOR. I have a great team of people that help educate the industry and discover what JOOR can do. And the thing about JOOR in this environment is, everybody is rushing to be digital, and we've always been digital. So it's kind of an interesting time at the moment. We've been, if you don't know us, for the past 10 years, JOOR has been the industry-leading digital wholesale platform for sharing collections and transacting and managing the entire wholesale business. We connect brands, we connect retailers, and streamline that entire process. So that being said, in this environment, we're seeing a groundswell of interest from brands and retailers who maybe for the first time realizing how critical going digital is to their business. So it's insane and unfortunate that something like a health crisis like COVID could cause such disruption in our industry. So our focus right now is just offering a way forward for them, like helping our customers ensure that their business can continue now. And even if things weren't so bad, it's the way to go.
Thank you for that. So bringing it back to Matt, getting things started, the term starter pack comes to mind, right? For those of us who do not have a very sophisticated digital footprint, what would you recommend some of the starter pack tools, the essential 101 tools and strategies that every brand, regardless of where they are digitally, should be implementing at this time?
Yeah, it's a good question. So to just kind of level set here, I know that within our audience, we probably have a pretty wide spanning array of people that, like you said, maybe are just getting started with digital to people that might, be at more of an intermediate or expert level. So I'll try to, keep down the number of acronyms and just overall industry jargon that I might steer towards otherwise. So in terms of where Maison Market actually kind of picks up the reins in terms of our digital strategies, we, like I said, are very much focused on customer acquisition. So just to be clear, everything I'm about to say is probably most applicable once you have an online business that's actually live. If you're kind of pre-online business going live, that's where, amazing platforms such as Shopify, and I'll let Jordan, speak to those details in terms of what it means to actually launch and deploy an online store. But for my intents and purposes, I'm going to be speaking primarily about once your online business is already live. So hopefully we have some people in the audience who are already selling online. So to bring it back to the question, in terms of like a starter pack, One thing that I think is very important to understand, and what we focus on as an agency, is largely this umbrella called paid media. So within paid media, that's really any piece of digital advertising placement online. So that can be anytime you see an advertisement on Google, anytime you see an advertisement on Instagram, if you're scrolling in your feed or you're going through your Instagram stories and you see that sponsored post pop up, all of that exists within this kind of paid media ecosystem. If you're getting retargeted by Net-a-Porter and you're seeing something on the New York Times, that's all kind of within this broad ecosystem. So one thing that I think is very important to understand and is very specific to kind of 2020 and where we are today is that essentially as we've seen the maturation process of all of these different social media platforms and digital platforms, most of them have already gone public and are now being forced to essentially be more and more transparent and force down these paths of monetization, which occasionally you'll see platforms like Facebook get in trouble for, going back to like the 2016 general election. The increased monetization pressure on each of these platforms has resulted in very much a kind of pay-to-play model. So the first thing that I kind of wanted to just put out there is that long gone are the days of being able to create and tangibly scale a business exclusively through organic means. Now, we'll touch on that a little bit later, what organic channels and levers can be pulled on. That's not to say that organic doesn't have value, but every business going into the direct-to-consumer landscape should really be thinking about understanding that it is going to cost some amount of money and some resources to acquire a customer. Like that is 101, understanding that you're going to need to spend in order to connect with your customer. Why is that important, and why is it very critical to be explicit about that? Because within that 101 kind of starter pack, Brian, to go back to your question, it's critical that every online business has a understanding of their benchmark customer acquisition costs. One thing that we're seeing as a trend throughout this entire COVID experience is that as more and more businesses are flocking to digital, there's essentially like an inflationary aspect to the cost of digital advertising. So if you start going into this world of digital advertising without having an understanding of what your kind of fundamental or foundational costs have to look like, it's essentially like being at sea without a compass, and you're kind of just letting the winds take you where they might. So you definitely, before kind of jumping in and actually wanting to start with any kind of digital advertising program, having a very clear understanding of what your target customer acquisition costs ought to look like is, for me, 101. Those are details that can be provided to your team internally. They're details that can be provided to agencies and partners, and kind of how you can calculate that cost and the overall just like strategy behind bringing it down. I could go on for that for a very long time, so I don't want to go on and on. But 101 is definitely understanding, like based on your own margins and your product categories, whether you're mono brand or multi-brand, what that customer acquisition cost baseline looks like for your specific business.
Thank you, Matt. Moving on to Jordan, this is a two-parter for Jordan. So you mentioned in the early days of e-com, it was $1 million to launch a basic e-commerce platform for a retailer. And you mentioned those days are long gone. It's much easier today. So, what is the easiest and fastest way for retailers to get set up for those who are not set up? And for those who are up and running, what could they be doing a little bit better and more efficiently during this time?
Yeah, I think the beauty of today is that everybody's on this level playing field, regardless of whether you're, a $50 million brand, or you could be an entrepreneur working on your parents' basement. The reality today is consumers have access to the same distribution networks that were previously exclusive. They have access to the same pools of inventory. Shipping and logistics costs are relatively cost effective. So I think the barrier that's held back the entrepreneur has really been technology. And, prior to, I would say, the advent of SaaS-based e-commerce, prior to the advent of Shopify, the e-commerce retailer or merchant had to have all these expertise and all these abstract, unnecessary competencies. And that was like hosting and infrastructure and development and architecture. And, I think the beauty of Shopify, and I think the beauty of the environment today, is we've removed all these barriers. So the only thing really keeping you from, like it allows you to focus on the two most important variables, like authentic brand and messaging, product development, customer acquisition costs, and lifetime value. And, we've got a lot of great examples right now where traditional brick and mortar retailers are coming live for the first time. So we've got, I think, a case study coming out tomorrow from Lindt Chocolates. So Lindt Chocolatier, their stores closed in Canada. They traditionally did not have a direct-to-consumer model. So, using more standardized themes and templating, they were able to reproduce a site that looked just like their homepage, and they were up and selling chocolates in 5 days. So, zero to, like online distribution network just before, online channel just before Easter in 5 days is something that just would have been laughable, I would think, even just a couple of years ago. So these are painful times right now in many regards. But I think I think for those who have avoided having a direct relationship with the end consumer because they went through supply chains or different channels, those who have had to go through distribution networks, now is, it's an easier time now than ever to go direct to consumer with the merchant. And it also, I think the most exciting thing for me is it's the easiest time ever to do brand experimentation. So if you're looking to do iterative development, iterative brand testing, seeing what messaging works, now technology has been removed as that barrier really to building that direct communication, that direct line to your potential merchants.
Yeah, you said the barriers to entry are as low as they've ever been or potentially could be to go digital. But that makes me think that there are also competitive advantages out there. And one of those competitive advantages that I'm thinking about is the wholesale order writing platform, which is a really interesting segue to Loree. So the barrier to entry is down. There's a pool of brands and retailers that are potential clients to a JOOR. So I'm interested in hearing about how JOOR helps brands and retailers gain a competitive advantage in the marketplace. And relating it back to COVID, if you've been seeing some of your clients use the platform any differently, or if the product development team is thinking about releasing new products that can address this COVID environment. So Loree, definitely want to transition that one over to you.
Yeah, thank you. It is a crazy time, but as I said, we've always been doing this, and it's just getting a tremendous amount of attention right now as people scurry. But JOOR is a very robust platform, and outside of order writing, which you referenced, just so many more abilities for brands and retailers to business as usual. So if you think about every step of that life cycle, whether it's pre-market, and again, if you're in a physical market, great, but none of that has to happen with JOOR. 365 days a year, you can do business 24 hours a day. Just reaching out, brands and retailers, unsiloed, data exchange across the board. So pre-market, we help you upload your collections, create line sheets seamlessly, easily. And then on the other side, we help manage the buying, if you will. So retailers can find brands, find retailers. But one of the things that you mentioned, are we doing anything different? I think there's different aspects that people are dealing with right now. So there might be changes to their ATS funds. Like if they're sitting with inventory, we're able to release them, surface that, and potentially get that in front of the people that can benefit from that. And we also have released payments, which has been really, really beneficial to a lot of our clients. The speed to getting paid by utilizing our payments has been remarkable. I think it's been 4 days from invoicing. So that has proved to be like a really exciting feature. But we've gotten a lot of press recently, and what people seem to be talking about a great deal is our virtual showroom capability. And essentially, this is part of our platform where brands can reach buyers if you can't be in person. It includes everything, like I said, from discovery to connecting to sharing those line sheets, generating those orders, letting them know about changes. And another exciting feature that we recently announced is a strategic partnership with Orga, which brings Org 360 images directly onto the JOOR platform. So this enhances our capability where we always can surface high, res images, but it allows the product to be displayed in an amazing lifelike way, super detailed, super beautiful. So it's an enhanced experience that we know brands are crazy about. Like, we are literally slotting people in to get it done, and we're pretty sure buyers will be excited about it as well.
Thank you very much. And now moving on to Karin to talk about the RealReal a little bit. I think many of our listeners in the audience today would be actually quite surprised to know that the RealReal has a B2B operation. So I would love to hear about that generally, but specifically to this climate, as we all know, it's been a hot topic, the amount of seasonal inventory that's out there that faces potential markdowns, a lot of autumn, winter 20 deliveries already being canceled, or some stores looking to potentially scale back on some of those deliveries. So having another channel to sell, in this case, the resale market, is quite interesting for people on the call, I would imagine. So Karin, can you jump in to give us a little background on the program and sort of what you guys are doing to help address this COVID environment?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And I think we flew under the radar because it is one of almost the value points of brands and retailers working with us, is that, it's the discreetness of it, which I think is an important part. But really, we're here, like we all know, retailers are going through a really difficult time, and we want to be here to help in as many ways as we can. So TRR basically enables businesses to be able to use our channel to reach our community of 15 million shoppers. So we try to make it as easy as possible. It's a little bit different than kind of like setting up or, using your own e-commerce. It's reaching this huge network of people that we have buying on our site. Businesses tend to like it because it's really easy. We handle all the photography, all the payment, all the merchandising, the fulfillment. All of that is handled by the RealReal. It's anonymous, and they can sign privately. It's easy. A lot of people are having trouble getting into their warehouses and things like that. So we make it really easy to get the pieces to us. And there's just real-time transparency and visibility. So it's using our data. So the millions and millions of pieces that we've sold on the RealReal, we use that to help price, engage what the market is asking for these items. So, it's not just necessarily, off price. It's it's archival pieces, it's beautiful items. It's things that consumers want. It's just helping the brands and the retailers find a better way to connect with those consumers. And that's how we kind of see the RealReal playing a part in all of this.
Yeah, you mentioned ease, and I think that's a great word because, a lot of people who are not digital yet are probably worried that becoming digital is quite hard. And there's a lot of products to choose from out there. So I wanted to bring the next question back to Jordan and Loree together for them to address the ways that their digital platforms sort of speak to each other, right? So, if I'm a retailer or a brand and I'm using a JOOR or I'm using a Shopify, how do these products speak to each other and make it easy for the retailer or brand to have multiple digital advantages?
Yeah, I'll jump in, I suppose. Yeah,
we can. Do you want to go first, Jordan, or you want me to jump in?
I'll go quick. Yeah, no, but I would say, from we were API first architecture. So, we were from the day one, Shopify was very focused on flexibility of integration, consumability of connecting with third parties. So if you're connecting with a SaaS-based ERP solution, then it's designed to be, turnkey. We have built-in channel integration, so you can sell on third-party marketplaces entirely via configuration. And with someone like JOOR, we need to have to ensure that our APIs can be leveraged for brand discovery as well. So JOOR has, having a flexible integration architecture, very easy for consumer to do brand discovery on JOOR, and then be able to import products into either your inventory management system into Shopify directly. So I think, the benefits of the flexibility of our integration models, I think, like enable brand discovery as well as all the merchandising process associated with, getting your products to market.
Yeah, I can add to that. And first, I want to say, Jordan, I love Shopify. Back in the days when I was, building a marketplace, like, it is so easy to use and such a beautiful interface. So I've always been a big fan. But Shopify Plus is one of the 50 backend systems that JOOR has an integration with. So as he said, an API integration, you can pull all of the brand's style, inventory, customer data automatically from Shopify directly into JOOR. And then additionally, the orders are sent from JOOR directly into Shopify so that brands can process, and fulfill against that. So these integrations enable brands to work in a fully automated way via JOOR, and they can digitize their entire wholesale selling process so that they can, with those efficiencies, then they can really focus on the impactful aspects of their business. Having worked with efficiency platforms, moving into that realm, you can relieve yourself from the mundane and really work on the strategic and drive your business.
Yeah. And I think it's just another example of the consumability of the environment today when it comes to building, at least from a technology perspective. The hardest parts now are becoming, the creative, the how do you maintain messaging, how are you lowering customer acquisition costs. But the fact that you can just easily and flexibly integrate to JOOR, and then you have an entire ocean of products that you can do brand discovery with, shoot, and then very quickly and efficiently launch that product onto your e-commerce site, I think is pretty miraculous compared to where we were 3 to 5 years ago.
And I want to add one thing because I didn't bring it up before. Now that you mentioned that Orb 360 imagery that we now have on JOOR, when we shoot, you shoot your product, they're gorgeous imagery, and you also have the rights to use it on your e-com sites. So there's another efficiency and truly an upgrade because it's such a beautiful product. And you probably know the cost, many brands probably know the cost on photography shoots, and then having the rights and being able to get that to your platform, that's just another efficiency because they can go right to the retailers and go right to your site. And of course, it makes your collection look amazing on JOOR to the buyer.
Yes, the part of the game is becoming efficient and quick so that you can focus on the message, right? That's what you guys are saying. So that's another really great segue into the next question, which is for Matt. So now we're up and running. How do we message to brands today? To potential consumers today, whether it's paid or organic, knowing that we're living in a very sensitive time where some people have lost their jobs or they're on furlough or they just don't want to hear about products because they're worried about other things. So I guess generally, how do you get that message out there? And then specifically the breakdown between paid and organic at a time like this?
Yeah, sure. So just to level set for a moment so that everybody knows what I'm going to be referring to when I refer to organic and when I refer to paid. So within the organic bucket, typically I would include that as any source of traffic that you are not explicitly paying for. So that would be things like organic search. So any kind of search engine link that is not an ad, people going directly to your website. I would consider email within organic as well, though you might have to pay some nominal cost to an email service provider. People that go directly to your website, any form of referral traffic. So if you have PR and Vogue links to you, that would generally be within that broader organic bucket. And then within paid, that's going to be, like I had mentioned, social media advertising, search engine marketing, any kind of banner advertising or retargeting. So to bring it back to Brian, to your question in regards to how to leverage paid, one thing first and foremost, and this is true of non-COVID times, that I think is very important for all brands to understand is today, and for probably the past at least 2 years or so, the primary battleground for new customer acquisition has been social media advertising. And you could even narrow that in quite a bit more to Facebook and Instagram. I would say that today as an agency, we're probably spending at least 60 to 70% of our time on Facebook and Instagram. You can also do new customer acquisition through YouTube, through Pinterest, even through Snapchat, Reddit, and some other social media channels as well. But if you're new to this, Facebook and Instagram is really the critical battleground. The reason that I kind of hone that in a little bit is because hopefully that'll enable everybody to very clearly think about kind of the parameters of the content and the advertisements that we're talking about. These are not, full page spreads here. We're talking about carousels. We're talking about portrait Instagram stories ads. So that's essentially the bumpers that you have on this. To tell a story, to deliver a message. I think one thing that's been working very well for our clients in this climate is just having a very broad sense of positivity. I think some initial clients and brands inclination was to be very explicit in talking about the situation, but I haven't seen that really work well for anybody, or is certainly not for our fashion clients. And B, when people are looking at any kind of paid or organic posting from a consumer brand, for the most part, they're not following it because they want to follow up on epidemiology or public health standards. For the most part, people are following brands that they like because they're looking for, if anything, a distraction from all of the doom and gloom that exists through the other media outlets that we're absorbing. And I think, speaking for myself, certainly this has all been going on for long enough. One day is kind of bleeding into the next, that there's certainly, I'm sensing a bit of coronavirus and COVID fatigue that's setting in, I think, across the board. I'm sure we could all relate to that. So I think that for a lot of our clients that are electing to advertise, maintaining just an air of positivity, and then also one thing that we've seen perform quite well is being very factual with your clients in terms of your standards as far as logistics, as far as sanitization practices, as far as when customers can expect their parcels. These are things that are generally not sexy talking points, but in a day when, people might go to your website and not actually know if their parcel is going to arrive in 2 days or in 2 weeks or in 2 months, just being very explicit with your customer base about the state of your business actually will go a long way. And we've seen that actually eke up conversion rates. A lot of our clients have FAQs, COVID-related FAQs and banners on their website. All of that type of just very straight talk language, I think, goes a long way towards making customers feel comfortable pressing that add to cart button. So just overall positivity and also just being very explicit about the state of your business.
Staying on that message talking point, the RealReal, although digitally native, has some brick and mortar locations in some very expensive neighborhoods in Soho and West Hollywood, to name two of them. So the RealReal has done a really incredible job of fostering community within these locations. So Karin, I was interested in how the RealReal is maintaining that connection with their consumers, that they would typically, throw cocktail parties at the store or have panels and presentations at the store. How is the RealReal continuing to foster that community during this time?
Yeah, I will say the only silver lining of not having our retail stores open is that I don't find things out of my budget every time I go in now, which is usually what happens. I would usually spend too much money when I go into those stores. So that's my credit card likes me right now. But in general, I think that we really value our community. It's a huge part of who we are and what we do. To the point we've done a lot of social. So we're connecting with our buyers and our consignors on social. We're showcasing the different ways. One of our big innovations that we're doing right now is our virtual appointments. So we're connecting people with our experts to make sure that they feel like they have really the trusted expertise of the RealReal at their fingertips of their phone, which we know we're all scrolling through quite a bit right now. But we're also doing things in education. And I think one of my favorite parts about working at the RealReal over the past 3 years has been that we educate people on the market, on what trends are. We educate them on authentication, really looking at how they can invest in pieces and know that they're buying something that they really love and that they can have for a long time. It has a life in the secondary market. So we have a lot of our experts producing content, connecting with clients on social. But then we're also we had a sound meditation healer, which was amazing. I personally needed it. Stressful times call for just kind of some peace within that. And I think that being genuine and authentic through our connections has really helped a lot of our clients. We are collecting unused medical supplies and distributing those. So things like N95 respirators, surgical masks, and that's all part of our consignment process. So since our consignment process has moved mostly to, virtual appointments and that and shipping in, we're collecting those and distributing them. So it's really kind of being a part of the times and connecting with our consignor and buyer base as much as we possibly can through our phones, through chats, things like that.
The vast majority of our audience, understanding that Informa is an exhibitions company, are exhibitors and attendees. So I wanted to ask a question to Loree about the ways that JOOR complements the traditional aspects of a trade show experience, the discovery, the networking, the efficient and centralized B2B marketplace that a trade show represents. So can you speak on how JOOR complements that experience?
Yeah, I touched on it a bit before. It's just kind of so core to what we do, enabling business to go on between brands and retailers anytime they want. But, trade shows are critical, and we believe in them. They're critical, they're complementary elements to the buying process. We have aspects to our platform, whether it's web-based or the iPad, that allows to streamline the workflow in that environment. So if you're there at the show, you can easily have your collection in your hand and make it super easy for a buyer to, look at me, I'm using my iPad, a buyer to order on the fly. It just syncs. It just is so efficient across that whole work stream. But due to COVID or just now, they can do everything online. And I think you touched it on, Karin, that people are really anxious to keep their appointments and do their business while they're still virtual. So there is a really robust part of our platform where they can do their appointments. It's really easy to upload your catalog to that. You actually have that, you send it out, the catalog's there, you can have a Zoom or video link and actually have a virtual market appointment or showroom appointment right on the fly with JOOR. So people are really, really enjoying that. And then the other thing that I didn't mention last time I was talking about our 360 imaging, another thing that we've listened to the need for, and I cannot believe how quickly we switched our roadmap and our tech team put it together, but we're also releasing video and talk track. So people were really anxious to just bring that enhancement to the JOOR platform, and now we can offer that as well. So again, we see huge value in trade shows, particularly as it relates to networking and education. That's something we've talked about for ages, like how do brick and mortar stores handle the online era and, experiential. There's always a need for both, right? What you can do with technology, in my opinion, is amazing. That's another aspect we talk about a lot. I've seen in Jordan's world, in Matt's world, I've been there, where there's so much development in B2C and so much money spent on advertising, trying to get product to the end consumer. And there's so little of that spent on a B2B environment that helps wholesalers really kind of get up to speed, helps buyers and everybody in our ecosystem do their job more efficiently. And by doing your job more efficiently, not only do you have that time to be more strategic, but we've seen amazing growth in people's, average order value and just return on their investment.
Thank you. Last week we definitely didn't spend enough time looking at audience questions, so I wanted to spend more time today on the audience questions. So I was thinking that we'd wrap it up here with one general question for the group, and then we would move to the audience questions because we do have quite a few of them. So generally speaking to the group, fashion is such an incredibly tactile and emotional industry on both the B2B and B2C level. So just curious how each of you address this reality in the way that you work with your clients and users of your services and platforms, how you get them to understand the benefits of digital vis-a-vis physical. And again, Loree, you've done a great job of talking about how they complement each other. But I would like to open it up to the group and start with Jordan.
Yeah, absolutely. I think authentic messaging has never been more important than now. So as we've come down, like we've seen this somewhat, cost of technology, building a brand, the creative aspects have really come down significantly. Customer acquisition costs have through traditional channels have gone up. So the lifetime value of your customer loyalty, those things are more important than ever. So I think, a lot of it comes down to authenticity of messaging. A lot of it comes down to how you build, that personal one-on-one relationship with your customer. We're seeing a lot of merchants create the concept of buyers clubs. So before you're going out and you're purchasing large amounts of inventory, you're going ahead and you're test marketing specific products with certain segments where are going to represent a broader demographic. At Shopify, our goal is really, we're not just, we're a technology company first, but on the Shopify Plus side, we give you the human resources as well. So we have account managers, we have thought leadership, folks who have just expertise beyond just the technology who can really help you to kind of identify and get creative when you're exploring new channels. Because never have you needed to be more creative than now. You can't just throw paid ads at Facebook anymore and expect a significant return on investment if you're not maintaining customer loyalty. And ideally, you're finding channels that are low cost or no cost via social media, YouTube, et cetera. So it's a fascinating time. Our goal is really to be much more than a technology platform and really be a thought leader with our largest clients as well as they optimize their digital marketing strategies.
Karin, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I think because we were built as a digital company that really wanted to integrate that luxury experience, we've just been innovating on ways that we can do that in this time. So we've always wanted to be personalized. We wanted to feel like a really easy, luxurious consignment experience, which traditionally hadn't really happened. So we're just figuring out ways that we can grow that, and one of those ways is connecting in an authentic way. So we have like gemologists, horologists, handbag experts, all those kinds of experts that used to be able to come into your home, which is an extremely personal, tactile relationship. But now we're bringing them into your home via FaceTime, via connecting online. And people really like that. I think with everything that's going on, people want that personal connection and they want to feel like you're being authentic and genuine with them. And so we have just tried to expand that and grow that. We have representatives throughout the whole country who are all in their home as well as their clients. And they're just kind of bonding over that and talking through that. Not to mention a lot of people are cleaning out their closet because they have some extra time. So we're walking them through that process too. And I think we're doing the same for brands and for retailers. They want to have a personalized relationship, look at data, understand where their business fits in with ours, and we're expanding that in the best way we can through technology.
Great. And Matt, anything to add?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief here because, like you said, I know there's a lot of questions. So in terms of like how to effectively just bridge that emotional gap, especially for product categories that, like you said, are so tactile, oftentimes need to be tried on, just have a very real kind of like in-person benefit. One thing that we definitely recommend to all of our clients is that the brands that we see that are performing best are the brands that have conquered or at least figured out how to produce effective content that is going to pull in their target audience. And what we recommend to most of our clients is that they think about their brand content in conjunction or correlated to where in the funnel that content is going to live. So just understanding that, maybe for somebody that has never heard of your collection, never heard of your brand, never heard of your store, it's best to lead with a piece of editorial content or something that is going to kind of pull them into the world of the brand. And then as you work kind of down the funnel, having some of those touch points just become increasingly commercial. It doesn't matter if they're organic touch points, once somebody's like following you on social, or if somebody has signed up for your email list. Just understanding the corresponding levels of content along the funnel. And just to definitely echo something that Jordan mentioned earlier, another thing that has become critical for all of our clients, speaking of the funnel, is just figuring out strategies for expanding customer lifetime value. That's how a business can really be scalable today. So understanding that, most of our successful clients are going to follow that 80-20 rule, where they're really spending a lot of time figuring out how to extract additional value from their existing clients. So there's a lot that goes into that, obviously, but definitely just understanding the funnel and understanding what customer loyalty looks like is critical.
And
yeah,
Loree,
you've already
go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
A great deal, like in terms of virtual showroom and things like that. But I think you were just talking about something I call brand voice, right? Like, how do you establish your brand and like speak your brand's message when you're in a digital space? And in addition to be able to highlight, the product, whether it's the virtual showroom or it is also, we enable our clients to upload any media they have. So if they've got their lookbooks or they have video that's really telling their brand story, that would be great to put on Facebook or YouTube. That same message that you're putting across your digital advertising can live in JOOR, so those retailers can see what you're about. And that's something that I find our prospects and clients are really trying to do. Like, they talk to me about, well, if I can't be in person and I can't get across the theme and I can't get across, what we're trying to say here. So we're constantly helping them enable that and evolving.
Thank you so much. So with that, I definitely want to move over to these audience questions. We have quite a few of them, and the Informa team has been doing a great job of trying to compile them thematically, because some questions have some overlap. And one of the biggest questions that I'm seeing come across here has to do with customer acquisition costs, targeting this question towards Matt. So generally, one big question is, what should be my benchmark for customer acquisition? And then more specifically to some of these smaller brands, they're asking, in the event that I don't have that much money to acquire customers via paid, how do I interact on social media? What's the best way to get that going?
Yeah, sure. Both very, very good questions, and ones that I get asked quite a bit. All right, so to address the first one here, what should your target customer acquisition costs be? So first and foremost, this is obviously going to be a little bit different. If you are a multi-brand store and you're buying inventory, your margins are different than if you are a mono brand. However, let's just say that for the purposes of simplification, that you are a brand that is selling direct to your consumer and that you own the inventory that you're selling. That'll probably make it a little bit more straightforward. Typically, I would recommend, and this is a pretty tried and true methodology, that you think about your customer acquisition costs in relationship to your customer lifetime value. Now, one issue that you could potentially run into when doing that is that if you're a brand new business, or if you're a lower scale business, you might not have the historic data to actually project out your customer lifetime value. So you would need to do something called predictive customer lifetime value, where effectively you create a model based on your expected customer purchase behavior. And generally speaking, to kind of put that in perspective, most brands will think about their customer lifetime value in a ratio to their customer acquisition cost. So to give you an example, let's say that your customer lifetime value is $100. Typically, you would want your customer acquisition cost to either be in a 3-to-1 or a 4-to-1 ratio to that. So if you can acquire a customer for anywhere from $25 to $33, that would generally speaking be a good place to land. If you're not sure and you have no idea what your customer lifetime value might look like for your product category and you want to be conservative, what you can do is you can sub in your average order value in place of customer lifetime value, and then that'll give you a customer acquisition cost that you can back into. And you could potentially multiply your average order value times 1.2, 1.5 to give you, some basic expectations around what your lifetime value might look like. So generally a 3-to-1 or a 4-to-1 ratio of lifetime value to customer acquisition cost. Obviously, that's going to be very different if you're a subscription-based business or something like that. In terms of how to grow and scale your business if you don't have a large budget to throw at paid advertising or digital advertising. Obviously a critical question. One thing that I always put out there is that even our biggest clients, if we have a client that's selling $10, $15, $20 million through their online business, $50 million, whatever it might be, even our biggest clients are getting typically anywhere from 30 to 50% of their site revenue from their email subscriber list. So they're deriving a huge amount of value from their email community and people that opt in to receive their email communications. With it, for most brands, what's called first-party data, aka the leads that you get, the emails that you get from people that opt into your database, that's considered gold in digital advertising terms. So if you can run sweepstakes, do cross promotions, run lead generation ads, those email addresses, if they are qualified, are going to have long-term benefit and value to your business. I never recommend that any clients buy a list. Buying a list, that comes up all the time for some reason. I don't know who originally recommended that to people, but just outright buying a list is generally not effective. But if you can get people to opt into your community through whatever incentives you can deploy, that is generally a low-cost, high ROI or ROI channel that we recommend all of our clients are very thoughtful about.
Thanks, Matt. Jordan, we have a bunch of questions coming in about how smaller retailers can compete with bigger players, specifically Amazon. A few questions have come in vis-a-vis that, and a few other questions about marketing services that Shopify provides. So if you can address those two questions in tandem somehow.
Yeah, so customer loyalty is everything right now. I think that's been the common theme, especially during these times. So, figuring out if you're a small merchant, getting live on Shopify is fairly easy. If you have, 1,000 products and you already have the studio photography, you have the merchandising and you're ready, you can be off and running in anywhere between, 5 days to a couple months. So it really comes down to how are you building your customer base and how are you maintaining them? So, content is king. Maintaining customers right now is, if you want to, if you want your, I think there's too much emphasis on conversion rates. I think conversion rates were more important 10 years ago. I think the reality is if you have a terrible conversion rate right now, but you have customers are visiting your sites repeatedly, and they're only transacting once in a while, that's wonderful. Brand engagement is absolutely everything. So, just putting your products on an online site is not enough. You've got to have an authentic message. You have to be able to pull on the heartstrings in some capacity through aspirational emotion, and in doing so requires, I think, content and some sort of loyalty program that creates a feeling of exclusivity. A lot of that in social media is obviously mattered more now than ever. The number of social media followers you have strongly correlates to the number of page views you have, which strongly correlates to how how much revenue you're going to drive. So because customer acquisition costs are for paid search can be quite expensive. Engaging customers through those free channels and doing partnerships with folks who may have a leg up on you as far as a broader influence, I think are probably the more important than ever. But the beauty is, I think the technology components are less intimidating than they've ever been. If you've never sold direct to consumer online, doing so can be done. You can find page developers and designers relatively cost effectively. Integration costs have never been more, I think, more consumable. So it's really, the hardest part today, getting your shop up with your products available, that's the easy part. Figuring out the creative ways that you can lower your customer acquisition costs and keep them coming back to your experience. Those are the areas that require more creative energy, and they're not simply paint by numbers anymore.
Thank you. On the topic of customer acquisition, we have some questions from some retailers for Karin about getting onto the vendor relations program. So essentially, what does it cost me to acquire customers through the RealReal, right? And these questions vary from a simple breakdown of the percentage of men's versus women's shoppers on the RealReal to what the terms of consignment are, to the process of simply being onboarded onto the RealReal's vendor relations program. So can you drill a little bit deeper on that program?
Yeah, definitely. Love this question. So to start high level, we have men and women shopping consistently across all demographics. So we actually have a brand list of all the brands that are accepted. I believe there's over 400 now. So that kind of gives you an idea of the type of product that we're working with. And as far as the process goes, we will have, account managers who can work with you through this. We make it really easy. If you have an inventory list of things that you're interested in selling, we can price ahead of time. We work with our pricing and merchandising team. We use the thousands and thousands of items we've sold as data points. So we really aim to sell within 30 days. And we use that guidepost as a way to price. So the real prices, the vendor or the business accepts the pricing. We show you exactly what percentage you would make. And then we give you shipping labels to ship it in. We can have UPS come pick it up, or one of the RealReal vans come pick it up. And so we pick up the product. We do all of the photography, all the cataloging, all of those things. And then we basically send a check or do direct deposit into you. So the barriers are pretty low. In the past few weeks, we've had a number of brands reach out to us and do a test run. So they want to see what pricing looks like and what the process is like. So we're happy to work with you guys on that.
That's great. Thank you. Loree, we have a bunch of questions coming in on how brands and retailers are using the JOOR platform during this time, which has been more or less a moratorium or a complete hold on buying and selling activity, as we know. So a lot of these questions are asking, are there different ways that I can use the JOOR platform to simply connect? And then some other questions asking specifically about whether they can drop ship through JOOR.
Those are great questions. Yeah. So one thing that I think people have found really surprising is, even though times are really confusing right now, our business, or the business of the people that are on JOOR, are still seeing an increase or holding because they're able to shift around and, like I said, available to sell or move orders around. They're able to kind of maneuver in a more nimble way. So we are still seeing business growing. Our Q1 was amazing. If you look at, I think we grew 50% Q1 this year over last year. And we're also seeing an increase of GMV, which really means that not only are people that are on it growing, but more people are joining. So for people that want to get involved with JOOR, it's easy. They can come on. There's a discovery aspect to it. So if retailers are interested in the brand, they can ping them and get accepted, and vice versa. So I don't know if I'm answering the question exactly.
I think you definitely answered the general part of the question very, very well, if I might say so myself. But there was also a question about drop ship that was quite specific.
Yes.
So elaborate.
Yeah, again, great question. Love drop shipping. I'm trying to think whether we are ready or we are really close. We have someone on our team who handles all of our integrations, and I think we're in beta with a company that makes it quite seamless. So if there's anyone out there that's asking that question, do reach out to us, because I believe we're in a beta stage. So we'd love to, if you're interested, test it with you.
Great, thank you. This question has come across multiple times from a few people out there who are starting new brands that are about to launch. And these questions are generally to the group, looking for some advice as to how they should be behaving during this very strange time. Any opportunities that you see, or any ways that they can, I guess, specifically use your platforms, being brand new brands during this very strange time. So generally to the group, if anyone wants to take that one.
I think one of the things I found fascinating is there's the amount of data that's out there right now. Is that, previously you couldn't find trends on a week-to-week basis, and like for everyone from the big consultancies to analytics providers to, e-commerce technology solutions, everyone out there is putting information out there on accelerating or decelerating brands and markets. So before you launch into a new customer segment, before you, I think bring, an existing product offering online, it's good to take, there's so much research that's out there that's week to week, which is fascinating. I think that launching an e-commerce brand is relatively, can be done relatively efficiently these days. But I think it's more important, as we keep coming back to, it's building that dialogue, building that one-on-one communication, having content that's relevant. It's really easy to be tone deaf right now. I've received a lot of emails just in my personal email account that were just like, really? It doesn't really resonate at the time. So, figuring out that brand messaging, and honestly, what better time for brand experimentation? I mean, it's obviously very unfortunate, but if you're looking at the environment that we're in, but if you're looking to test different messages across different markets, now is, especially through online channels, I don't think that there's been, there's so much disruption currently that there's a lot of opportunity for trying out new concepts that previously, you might not have been at the forefront.
Yeah, and one thing, if I could just kind of piggyback on kind of the back half of that a little bit as well, one thing that we've seen just uniformly be true across the board is that screen time is just skyrocketing. So if you're a new brand, your audience is out there, and they are, for lack of a better way to put it, they are captive, right? We're all working from home, we're all working remotely. People are spending time in front of their laptops. Our Facebook agency rep told us that in the APAC region that's impacted by COVID, Facebook and Instagram usage is up over 50% period over period. So we're seeing a lot of just engagement. To Jordan's point, some of it definitely can be tone deaf. So I think there is a fine line to walk. But if you're launching a new business, your audience is out there, and now is a good moment to test connecting with them. As far as messaging strategy, one thing that we've seen perform quite well, which we started to touch on a little bit earlier, was just personification. And I think personification is actually really a two-way street here. There's one-to-one marketing where you're able to personify your customer, right? Where you might know their gender, you might know their geography and where they're located. You might know their birthday. But then one thing that we've seen also perform really well is a lot of our clients have done a really good job of their owners, their creative directors, the principals of the business, stepping out kind of from behind the shadows. Like, some of our clients are typically kind of front and center if there's a very prominent creative director, but we're seeing just across the board our clients as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as thought leaders, kind of step out and just very explicitly, speak with their customer base or prospective customer base in a way that's, I think, really endearing and it really resonates. That we uniformly see do well across the board when somebody when they're able to essentially attach their face to a business. We see that perform well almost exclusively.
Great. We have a really interesting question that just came across about regional reps, about agents and distributors, right? The majority, if not all, of our conversation has been about brands and retailers. And this question asks, how can any technology or marketing services or tools be used by someone who is operating as a regional rep or a distributor or an agent? So that's open to the group.
Well, I'll join. We do with many. So to the extent that what I've talked about today and like JOOR enabling business as usual, there would be nothing to preclude someone joining our network in that way. That's my side.
Anyone want to talk about maybe some of the more creative ways that reps, agents, and distributors can utilize social media or anything? Do you think the rules of engagement are different for someone who is a middleman as opposed to someone who's working on branded product or retail? I guess that question is pretty specific to either a Matt or Jordan or Karin, if you want to jump in as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think reps in the field, like, obviously e-commerce enable on the B2B side as well, removes lots of barriers to entry. So it's easier for reps in the field or folks who have distribution models to be able to have, to be able to process orders physically in place as well. And then, whether it's a multi-tier marketing model, whether it's a sales, organization, certainly there's a lot of efficiency to be gained by deploying, B2B, even B2B light storefronts potentially to order capture, to kind of remove some of the more complex processes, additional, associated with large and complex sales orders.
Great. Karin, we have a very specific question about packing and shipping and disinfecting products and how that might affect the P2P, peer-to-peer services out there like the RealReal, whether this new landscape that we're in, where people are sort of afraid to even receive a package, whether that's affecting the RealReal's business or whether you guys see an opportunity there. So if you would take that away.
We're following all the CDC guidelines. So the time that it takes between shipping and processing, we follow CDC guidelines that the virus shouldn't be transmitted. And we're actually kind of seeing that people are ready to clean their things out. So they're putting them into boxes and shipping them out. So it hasn't been an issue. And we're listening to all the scientists and everything they're saying and kind of following their direction.
Interesting question.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oops, did he freeze?
Did Brian freeze for you guys? I think he might have froze for me too.
Yeah. We have no moderator.
Hi, Elise is here. Brian is frozen, so I'm just going to follow up from him. And Brian, if you come back on, please just jump right back in. Okay, so another question that's been coming in around social media is how can brands use social media to build their community? What messaging should brands be putting out there these days? And to piggyback on that question, rather than searching for new stores right now, how can you use that communication with your existing customers?
Yeah, I think if you think through this, all the social, like every day, we probably spend more time on Instagram than we realize. And I don't even consider myself someone who really posts much on Instagram. But when you think through the experiences that you had in any given day, you very rarely remember the specific content. You might remember some of the messaging, but you'll remember basically how they made you feel. Yeah. So I think there's authentic messaging that strikes that builds a personal relation, has to relate very specifically to the audience in an emotional way. Very rarely are you looking, if you're doing product discovery because like, hey, I'm looking to find a new widget that I'm going to use for home improvement. You're not on Instagram. You're on maybe you're on Pinterest, maybe you're on just general search. But I think it's got to be the recurring theme is it's got to be informative, educational, emotional. It has to be able to. You have to be able to connect on a one-on-one level with your individual following, and that really comes from you've got to have a story that's compelling, that you can capture with merchants relatively quickly. And if you just want to showcase products because people are looking at your store for product discovery, but it can't just be about the product itself. It's got to be the product in the context of an overall theme or thematic messaging that's emotional, that emotionally relates with your segment.
I'll jump in on that.
I'm sorry.
We're not a paid social. Instagram. I mean, we're such a visual medium, if you will, brands and retailers. Like, we're all about, what we have to say and what it looks like. And Instagram and somewhat Facebook, but mostly Instagram, is so built for that, and they have so many great formats, whether it's stories, whether it's carousel, you can really very easily, if you have some imagery or you have something to say, I think it's a really great gateway drug, it's a really great medium for most of our brands to get started. And you can do some, and again, their algorithm is so strong for discovery. Like, if you know anything about your client, their lookalike audiences, their ability to match you with who you're trying to reach, even if you just get started a little bit, you will probably learn a lot. And then from what I know about successful paid marketers, like, once they unlock what's working, people can't throw enough money at it. Because if you can prove, as we were talking about, that you have achieved your lifetime value, if you can get a customer, your acquisition costs are working, that's a fantastic thing to learn about your business.
Yeah, I'll just say one thing. One thing that we did too, when all of this, kind of craziness started happening, was, as a brand, we also looked at like what our core ethos is, who we are as a brand, and like what matters to us. And we decided to really represent that well through the stories that we were going to tell and the way we were going to communicate to our clients. So for us, like, expertise, authentication is super important to who we are. So we really highlighted that in our Instagram stories and our posts, and really kind of used that to tell this story during this time. So it feels authentic because it's always been a part of who we are. So doing some of that like deep dive and looking and staying true to your brand ethos, I think really helps as well.
Yeah, one thing I was just going to throw out there as well, just as a bit of helpful advice as far as just content and social media advertising, we've seen a massive migration towards the usage of specifically short-form video. Short-form video is really under 15 seconds and oftentimes as short as 5 seconds, which sounds easy, and the production cost can be relatively low for short-form video, but actually getting across a meaningful message in 5 seconds, not always so simple. So obviously on Instagram stories, on TikTok, on Snapchat, these are all very video-centric platforms, and even we have clients that are getting creative. Right now is obviously not the easiest time to produce original content, but we have clients that are getting creative, working with animators to add flair to still imagery. It's really just about movement and what is going to get people to that kind of thumb-stopping moment, so that when they're scrolling or when they're clicking, they're actually going to pause for that half second to look at whatever that relevant piece of content is. So video production, animation, GIFs or GIFs, depending on your pronunciation, all very important.
That's all really good insight. Thank you. Thank you all for touching on that. This next question is for Jordan. This is interesting. As a wholesaler, how can this brand get their retail partners on a platform like Shopify if they might have been hesitant in the past? Do you have any overviews or cost benefit information that you can share with brands that they can then share with their retailers to get them online?
Well, traditionally everyone's always been afraid of disrupting existing channels. If you've had physical brick and mortar stores, maybe you didn't want to offer a manufacturer, supplier, didn't want to offer certain products. So now, for better or worse, we live in a world where I think you don't have a choice. So, just about everybody that has traditionally been, wanted to offer exclusively to brick and mortar is now going to have to start looking at online channels themselves. Marketplace models are certainly are definitely a recurring theme at the moment, where, larger distributors are looking to set up maybe. It's almost like reverse drop shipping, it's drop shipping on steroids, where you have an entire supply chain, you're a distributor, and now you're looking at providing many different either retailers or brands the ability to sell specifically on your marketplace. So there's lots of opportunities right now, and I think the times in which we live are sort of forcing a lot of folks to rethink their traditional models. So, suppliers that never were working. I'm working with a food service company that sold through restaurants and caterers. Like going direct to consumer was not a priority for them before. It certainly is now. Yeah, it's definitely interesting times with a lot of the disruption taking place. Has been, I think it's going to have lasting effects on the direct to consumer experience going forward.
Thank you. I hope that helped this brand and the others. Another question's coming in for Loree. When do you expect the 360 images to start rolling out on JOOR?
It's available. So again, if it's something you're interested in, just reach out. We'd be happy to show it to you. And we're just scheduling at this point. So we'll get you in the queue.
Okay, great. And what's the best way for them to reach out?
I think there's a link after that, but it could just be info@joor.com, or I'm Lash-Valencia@joor.com. You can reach out to me if you can't find it after the fact. But yeah, we're happy and excited to help anybody solve their problems at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Matt, a question's coming in about where this brand or retailer should be putting their advertising dollars right now. They're currently running Facebook ads, but they're not performing as well as this person would like. Are there any places that you might recommend?
Yeah, I mean, look, it obviously depends a lot on what the product category is. First, you want to identify who your target audience is and then understand where they're spending their time. So obviously, I would try to tailor this answer differently for, a makeup or beauty brand than I might for a ready-to-wear collection, than I might for a car dealership. But with that said, Facebook and Instagram are definitely still very central to customer acquisition. So I would recommend putting forth a valiant effort to understanding how to get that to operate well, because it's still, even as of today, even as of last week, performs fairly well across our clients. So if there is a disconnect there, I would preface this just by saying it's probably worth understanding, are people not clicking on your ads and your click-through rates are soft? Are people not converting when they get to your site? Is there some kind of misalignment with your target audience? I would definitely recommend trying to answer some of those fundamental questions. However, if you're set on moving on from Facebook and Instagram and perhaps augmenting or testing other channels, I would say probably for e-commerce customer acquisition, the next most impactful paid channel today is probably YouTube. YouTube has made some really tremendous strides in terms of shifting to a more conversion-focused advertising model, so you could actually drive customer acquisition. And YouTube also has one really, really incredible source of data that no other platform has, and that is that you can link your YouTube campaigns with Google search data and Google search queries. So if hypothetically, and that's obviously for those that don't know because Google owns YouTube, but for those that aren't aware, let's say that you are Tom Ford and you're interested on capturing some of that, Gucci magic that they've been producing, right? What Tom Ford can do is they can actually show 5-second pre-roll videos to people that are searching for Gucci on YouTube or on specific channels. So if you want to target your competitors, if you want to target people that are searching for a more specific type of query or product, you can have that video content looped in and they can see your ads on YouTube. So that's like a really incredible source of data that brands are starting to become more privy to, but it's not quite as popular as Instagram and Facebook is today.
Thank you.
That's really interesting.
That really is. Another question coming in, this person is the owner of a small store. In 2019, sales of $4 million, and they've had a Shopify site for the last 5 years and online. Until recently, they've only accounted for roughly 5% of their sales net of returns. Maison Market spoke to the cost of customer acquisition. What metrics should I be considering when trying to determine what the cost should be?
Yeah, so I started to touch on that a little bit, but I guess I can hone it in and take it a step further. So I did mention that customer lifetime value and average order value is kind of the two key metrics there. But lifetime value is this kind of big umbrella term, right? If you actually want to figure out like how you're performing month to month, I would recommend understanding what your repeat customer rate looks like is really critical. And I don't know if you're on Shopify Plus, but you know, Jordan, credit to your tech team and all the great work they do on the CRM. But they have some really within certain forms of Shopify, they have some really great qualification around customer pools. So they have something like VIP or MVP customers. They have at-risk customers. So you could know if somebody hasn't purchased within, say, like a 9-month window, you could actually export and get a list of people that are going to pull down on that repeat customer rate. So really what you want to understand is in a given month, let's say that you have 10,000 transactions in a given month, you know, understanding of that pie chart, how many of those, what percentage are new and first-time customers, and what percentage of those are repeat customers? And if you start tracking that, ideally, if you're implementing some of these loyalty strategies that we've been talking about, you're going to see that percentage and volume of repeat customers start to grow. Obviously, you're always going to need a stream of new and first-time customers coming into your funnel. But really what we're talking about is if you see that volume or percentage of repeat customers growing, the net effect of that is that your customer lifetime value is also going to be expanding. So repeat customer rate, repeat customer volume, all of that kind of ties into lifetime value. So those would be like kind of the key metrics that I would guide you towards.
Yeah, not too much to add there other than, you know, it's really hard to just make blanket statements around customer acquisition costs because there's so many dependencies. And as Matt was saying, you know, if you're able to maintain, if you've got high customer loyalty, you know, your customers are buying from you on a regular monthly basis, then you're certainly you're going to be willing to spend 5 times more than if this is a 1 or 2 time purchase. So, you know, too often I think merchants focus, you know, on attracting new customers versus maintaining the customers that they have. And the beauty of things like email and SMS is that it doesn't really cost you anything. You know, content, email, and SMS are basically free. You know, social media posts are basically free. Now, it costs production value to create them, of course, but you know, those are maintaining that existing customer relationship is far, far easier than attracting a new customer who you've never interacted with previously.
Thank you. And it's just about time. So I think we should wrap it up here. We want to thank all of our incredible panelists for taking the time to share your advice, your insight on these incredible digital strategies. We want to thank everyone who tuned in to our second live webinar in this series. And thank you, Brian. He froze during this, so I think that all shows us that as great as digital, it's always nice to be live and in person. So hopefully we'll all be back to that soon. We will have resources available from the panelists on our website, fashionframeworks.com, after the webinar, as well as a link to a short survey. We want to make these webinars as relevant and informative as possible, so please take a few minutes to complete the survey. And as a reminder, this presentation will be available to you by email, as well as available on demand on our website, fashionframeworks.com. So thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day and week.
Cool.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.